Hey, before I get started, you might notice something new. My friends Jack and Michelle were like, we don't want our pastor standing up there with a super dopey little table. So they bought this giant pulpit for us, and they came the other Saturday and they put it all together. I'm sad they're not here to like take credit for it, but it's like, look at this thing. This is nicer than my house. I feel like there's like extra rooms in here. I think there might be a little person in there somewhere. It's giant, and so I want to thank Michelle and Jack for seeing a need and meeting the need. I just love that, and it's beautiful. You should see how big it is from up here. Like I was telling Josh, we could have Thanksgiving on the top of this because it's ginormous, and I super appreciate it. Anyway, open your Bibles, if you've got them, to the book of John, the Gospel of John, chapter 2. If you don't have a Bible, there's one right on the table for you, or if you raise your hand, we can get you one. That's a Bible you can use today and keep forever. Or you can go to the YouVersion app or the Bible app, and if you click on the lower right-hand corner and click on More down there and look and search for events for Remnant Church, all the scripture verses and all the notes are right there. You can follow along. You can even take your own notes, but make sure that you save it. Otherwise, YouVersion just kind of forgets you were even there. I, however, will not forget you're here, and I'm glad that you are. Right after high school, my dad gave me the choice. He said, listen, you can either go to, at that time it was called NWTI, which is the Northeast Wisconsin Technical Institute, where they had shop class and nothing else. And then, or you could go into the military, but you're not staying here, you little turd. And so I joined the military, and I joined the Navy because I don't know why I joined the Navy, but I did. And so I joined the Navy and then went to boot camp. I was dating a girl who had gone to chef school in Hyde Park, New York at the Culinary Institute of America. And they told me while I was in boot camp that if I volunteered for submarines, that I could go for 8 weeks to submarine school in Groton, Connecticut, which was just like an hour and a half from Hyde Park, New York. So I knew I could go see my girlfriend on the weekend. So I volunteered, for a life experience on submarines, so I could spend 8 weekends with my girlfriend, who since then, left me and divorced me. But that's a whole nother story. Submarines. That's okay. You laughed really loud. Thanks. So I volunteered for submarines, and submarines were funny because if you didn't think about it, it was fine. But the moment you realize you're just like in this big underwater Winnebago with 110 other dudes, and like, it was bad. It was bad. You just had to not think about it. But I did meet my best friend from my whole time in the Navy. His name was Jared Sherwood. He was from just outside of Portland, Oregon. And he was a quartermaster, which meant he was the guy that did the maps and like the directions and stuff. And one time he told me, he said, we were outside standing watching. He said, red sky at night, sailors delight. Red sky in the morning, sailors take warning. I'm like, what are you even talking about, bro? I was gobsmacked. I'd never heard this before in my life. But we've been saying this for thousands of years. Red sky at night, sailors delight, shepherds delight. If you worked outside, you were glad if it was a red sky at night. You were worried, though, if it was a red sky in the morning, because if there was a red sky at night, it was a sign that it was likely going to be a beautiful day the next day. But if it was a red sky when you woke up, it was a sign that it was probably going to be a really crappy weather day, and it's not going to be great. And so we like signs. We like warnings. We like to know what's coming up. And more than that, we like proof. We like signs as like a sign that this is proof. A sign of proof. The gospel writer John spoke quite a bit about signs in his gospel. And he used a word called semeion, right? Which means a sign, a miracle, an indication, a mark or a token, a wonder, a sign which is typically miraculous, given especially to confirm, corroborate, or authenticate something. So, a sign, which makes me think of like a signal, or something that signifies, or something that's significant, a signet ring, right? Like where your signet ring is meant to like, this is my sign that I approve this. And all these words are roots out of the word sign. And so often this is what we want. We need the authority of signs. We want the reassurance of signs. Give me a sign, right, to make me know that it's real. Give me a sign that it's true. When my dog hops on me and licks my face, I know that she loves me. It's a sign, right after she. But we like these signs to like reassure us. Later in his account, John tells us the importance of signs. He says this: the disciples saw Jesus do many other miraculous signs in addition to the ones I've recorded here in this book. but these are written so that you may continue to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing in him, you will have life by the power of his name. Most people reckon that John records 7 miracles in his gospel. When Jesus turned water into wine at the wedding in Canaan, when he healed the nobleman's son, when he healed the man at the pool of Bethesda. Thank you. It's like a town in Maryland. Why can't I even say it? Feeding 5,000, walking on water, healing of the man born blind, and Lazarus being raised from the dead. These are things that John refers to as signs, not just miracles, but signs. The ancient Greek word semeion is used 74 times in the New Testament, and a full third of those are in John's writings. Most of the remaining ones are in the other Gospels or in Acts or in Paul's letters. John uses semeion in the formal sense of a sign or a pointer. This is a pointer, the sign saying this way: this is Christ, the Christ. This is the Messiah. This is the Son of God. The signs establish faith, but God is the content of the faith. So sometimes we look at signs and miracles as the sign and miracle. Like that's, oh my gosh, that's an amazing thing. But what is it indicating? I'm happy for a sturdy. Remember that one time in church where I did this? And I snapped that plastic lectern just in half, like cunning, and it went sailing. Anyway. What is the miracle? What does the sign point to? So in the coming weeks, we're going to work through the 7 signs found in John's gospel, starting with when he turned the water into wine. Let's just pray real quick for our time together. Father, God, I pray that you're just here for this conversation. Bring me peace, Lord, and an understanding of your word so that I can share it with my friends and that can begin a conversation around you and your signs and your wonders and your miracles and how they point to you and what does it all mean. Send your presence into this space. I ask this in your name. Amen. Let's crack open John's Gospel to chapter 2. The next day, meaning 3 days later, there was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the celebration. This is the first of many stories that we see in the Gospels suggesting that Jesus was always welcome among those having a good time. It seems like Jesus was a party dude. You know what I mean? I feel like when people got together and were celebrating, Jesus was invited. I know growing up, there's not a lot of Christians that I grew up with that I would say that were that kind of guy. There's not a lot of people that I grew up with who were like, I would like that person at my party. It seemed like they would be fun. You know what I mean? It seemed like they would be kind and funny and tell funny jokes and laugh and maybe even dance a little bit. Right? It feels like there was no person I knew in my church growing up that was anything like that. And Jesus, he didn't spoil the good time. Like when he was invited, he wasn't like a downer. You could see where like if you invited like a holy, super sanctimonious person to your party, like that one person would be like a complete downer. No one would even speak out loud in their presence. But that's not who Jesus was. And he was invited to this wedding, and in the Jewish culture, the wedding was like the best party of all. And I love that Jesus was invited. I love that he made himself welcome there. The fact that Jesus was invited to this wedding has several implications. Number one, the invitation of Jesus to this wedding says something about the kind of man that Jesus was. If he was like super sanctimonious and no one wanted to be in, they wouldn't have been invited. He had to have been a good time. He had to have been fun and funny and kind and lovable. The invitation of Jesus to this wedding says something about the presence of Jesus in the weddings, meaning that Jesus comes to a marriage and gives his blessing there that we may know that our family is under his care. I love that. He was already stepping into being the Son of God and the authority that he had and what that meant for him to give the blessing to this wedding. And lastly, the invitation of Jesus to this wedding says something about what happens when we invite Jesus into the events of our lives. We might think it's the most pedestrian thing in the world. It's just a wedding, you guys. But the fact that Jesus was there, he adds to the life, and we're going to talk about that. When we conflate the gospel accounts, we recognize that Jesus at this wedding was fresh off his temptation in the wilderness, right? It was 40 days of not eating, right? Anything, being tempted by Satan, right? And it was a horrible time. 40 days. 40 days is a long time. 40 days ago was like the 3rd week in April. That's how long ago 40 days was. And so can you imagine just like not eating since April? Like today is the first time you got that bagel, to eat. So he's coming off this temptation in the wilderness. He's on the brink of starting his ministry. He knows what that means and the work that's involved. And he knows that that work ends in his suffering and death. He's got all this on his mind, right? And he's here at this wedding. And do you ever not want to go somewhere because you got a bad week coming up? Bro, I can't. I'm just not going to today. I'm not going to go because you don't know this week is going to be heck. I got to go to Janesville this week. And that's the second time, Baron. I don't know why I keep bringing it up. But I got this thing. I don't want to go. Jesus is like, I'm going to start this whole 3 years of horrendousness that ends with me being whipped and nailed to a cross and dying. I don't feel like going to a wedding, man. But here he is, dancing and singing, lovable. Yet in a mind occupied with these things, the marriage joy to this couple that he brings. This little no-name couple, right, from the backwater town, he brings joy and he lifts the place. It's easy for us to think that God is too busy working the machinations of the universe to be bothered with our little lives. But that's not true. Jesus had to save the whole world from beginning to end. But still, this little wedding with people that we didn't even know the names of was important for him to be at. But sometimes we think in our walk with God that, listen, God's got, he's got stuff to worry about. He doesn't care about my job. He doesn't care about this test. He doesn't care that I'm running out of gas. He doesn't care that I don't have money to pay my utility bill. He doesn't care about any of it. Yes, he does. If you're hurt, he's hurt. So don't think just because you don't get this miraculous check for $238, which would exactly cover your power bill, he doesn't care about your power bill. But he's working in your life, and you have to ask yourself, in what way is he working in my life? But you're not going to find it if you're just wondering where the $238 check is. Sometimes we do that, and we wonder where God is because he's not writing us a check. I don't even think God has a checkbook. I don't know for sure, but if he did, it'd be one of those really cool rich person ones that's just like as a book. You know what I mean? You ever it's a really big pen and they tear it off on the side. It's like a side tear check. I feel like that's the kind of check that God would have. He wouldn't have the checkbook check. I tore it. I got to write a new one. Sorry, I got distracted. At this wedding, the wine supply ran out during the festivities. So Jesus' mother told him, they have no more wine. Dear woman, that's not our problem, Jesus replied. My time has not yet come. But his mother told the servants, do whatever he tells you. There's other translations that say, he just says to her, woman, which for us in our culture, if I called you woman, you know that there was something coming and you'd be just as mad back at me. And so, but it's just our lack of being able to translate that accurately. What he really meant to say is lady, my lady, is what he's trying to say here when he says woman. And so he's not being coarse or disrespectful to Mary. He's just saying, listen, milady, it's not time yet. He's actually separating. We're going to talk, I should wait. A wedding was supposed to be the best party of all. And for the host to fall or fail in providing adequate hospitality, it would be a great dishonor. So for them to run out, we might think, oh, they ran out of wine. Whoop-de-doo. Oh, there's no more Diet Coke? I'm leaving, which is what I would do. Oh, is Diet Pepsi okay? I'm leaving. Anyway, so it's not just a matter of running out of wine. It was catastrophic, right? So it may indicate that maybe they were too poor to have enough wine, and maybe more people showed up than what they were anticipating. Maybe they only had money for so much wine, and so now that would look bad on them. But to fall in providing adequately for the guests would involve social disgrace. People would talk about it. In the closely knit community of Jesus' day, such an error would never be forgotten. It would probably haunt the couple for the rest of their lives. Oh, I remember Sally and Bob. Remember, they're the ones that ran out of wine. And so now Sally and Bob are always like Sally and Bob no wine, right? That's their name in the neighborhood. And finally, in ancient Near East, this was a whole culture of reciprocity. You came to my wedding, I gave you all the wine you needed, and now I'm coming to your wedding and you don't have enough wine. People could get sued for not having, for not being reciprocitous. Thanks for no one saying anything. I feel like that's a word then. We don't know exactly why Mary brought this problem to her son Jesus, right? Perhaps she eagerly anticipated the day that Jesus would finally show off that he was the Son of God so she could stop the questions about where she was coming from. Because that people were still talking about Mary and Joseph and how Mary had that baby really soon after they got married. They're trying to do the math, the 9-month math, and they're probably talking slag about her, right? So you can see where Mary was like, maybe Jesus could just do this water and wine thing, and then like people would stop talking trash about me. Maybe. But when Jesus spoke to her, he spoke to her with in a way of respect, but he did not call her mother. Jesus wanted to emphasize that now that he was going to begin this ministry, that he was at this point of public ministry, he had a different relationship with Mary. It wasn't mother-son anymore. Like she was just a lady to him. So far from being rough and discourteous in the way that he addressed her, it was a title of respect. And so he wasn't saying, this isn't my problem. He was indicating, like, listen, you're not just my mom. Jesus indicated that there was a new relationship between him and Mary. If she sought his help now, she must not seek it on the basis of her mother and son relationship, but on the fact of who he was as the Son of God, as the Messiah. Now, Christendom, Catholic or Orthodox, has long seen this first miracle as a way to like solidify Mary's place for us. To saying that Mary said, do whatever he says. So now that you can see where there's whole religions that were made up of this idea that said, well, we should go to Mary and Mary would go to Jesus. Like there's whole faiths. Yet to believe that is to misunderstand the work completely. Jesus made it clear that he did not do this on the basis of their mother and son relationship. By calling her lady, by calling her madam, by calling her milady, right, or woman, he's not saying, Mom, it's not my time. He's saying, but lady, it's not my time. This isn't my problem. And so he's indicating that, listen, this isn't a mother-son thing. So to deliberately go through Mary to get to Jesus is to regard Jesus as hard-hearted and Mary as tender-hearted. Well, if we're not going to get what we want out of Jesus, let's go Mary. Like, did you ever do that when you wanted to sleep over at someone's house or have a friend sleep over? You'd bring your friend with them or with you, so when you asked, it would be harder to say no. And so we try to do this with Jesus. Maybe Jesus would be more likely to say yes if I pray to Mary first. Mary, could you please just intercede with me, with Jesus? Put in a good word for me with Jesus, to slip it right in. And we use the wedding at Cana to establish that. And that's not the relationship at all. That you're slighting the power and the love of Jesus Christ by saying, I need to go around you. I need to circumvent the thing that you said, that no one comes to the Father except through me, right? Isn't that what he said? And so I'm going to circumvent that by going through Mary. It's totally alien from the Bible, and it comes from like ancient and pagan, like mother-son ideas in pagan religions. The recorded words of Mary are few, but these particular words have an application beyond the immediate occasion which called them forth. Mary's words ought to ring true to our ears, though. The Lord wants us to do whatever he tells us. He often doesn't describe the path that he's taking us on. He doesn't explain how he intends to deal with our problems. He simply calls us to obey his revealed word. Do whatever he tells us. Don't ask why. Don't ask how. Don't ask what. Just do whatever he tells us. Only after we've obeyed will we have the opportunity to experience him at a deeper level. So Mary's words of do whatever he tells you are words for us for sure. Do whatever he tells us. Don't ask how. Don't ask when. And let me tell you the when, or the how, or the why. Standing nearby were 6 stone water jars used for Jewish ceremonial washing. Each could hold 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told the servants, fill the jars with water, and they filled them to the brim. Jesus began this miracle by using what was at hand. He could have supplied more wine any number of ways, but he started with what was there. He could have just like, and like there was like just bottles of wine, right? Or whatever Genie did, bing, right? Like he could have done anything, but he used what was already there. You are already here. You don't need to completely change who you are. You don't need to completely become something else. Jesus wants to use you where you are. Jesus wants to use you who you are. So if you're waiting for, right, so that this is how Tabitha did it. So Tabitha was the girl and she couldn't do her nose like Samantha did. Yeah, I can't do it. You look like a bunny. She would do it side to side. Anyway, if you're holding back on faith because you feel like you've not been changed, let me just tell you that you're a stone jar full of water. You're not wine yet. But don't think that you got to be wine before you can start working. He's going to use you as you are, where you are. The servants, under the direction of Jesus, were in a unique place of blessing for this miracle. Jesus wanted the cooperation of men in this miracle. He didn't need people. He's the Son of God. He didn't need someone to fill the jars and turn the thing with the stuff. He could have filled the pots himself or just as easily created the liquid in the pots. But he knew that if the servants shared in the work, they would also share in the blessing. The servants did not do the miracle. The servants didn't have anything to do with the miracle. Their efforts alone were completely insufficient. But because of their obedience to Jesus, they shared in the joy of the miracle. The servants were especially blessed because they obeyed without question, and to the fullest because they filled it to the brim. This means that the miracle would be fulfilled in the greatest measure possible. If they were lazy and only filled the water pots half full, there would only have been half jars of water. If they were lazy and disobedient and overfilled the pots half full, there would only been half as much wine. Do you follow me? Because they filled the jars to the brim, there was all the wine in the world. But because they were lazy and disobedient, they could have just, this is enough. This is fine. It's good enough. It's good enough. And how many times in our faith do we just like, it's good enough, man. It's good. I'm going to church on Sundays. It's enough. It's good enough. Right? I'm giving this, I'm doing that. I do that thing where I ring bells at Salvation Army on Christmas. It's good enough. Right? One time I gave $5 13 years ago to a guy in Chicago that was homeless on the street. That's good enough. And we do this in our walk. We do this in our faith, and we're wondering why we don't have more blessing, why we don't have more wine, because we've not filled our jars to the brim. We're just doing good enough. We're just like, it's good enough. I don't want to stand here all day and fill it. There's 30 gallons of water in this jar. We got 6 of them. How long are we going to stand here and fill this? Like you can see where this would be exhausting. I'm just done with this now. It's good enough. But the same thing happens in our faith. That's good enough. And Jesus is asking, but there's so much more that we could bless. We could do so much more. We could give so much more people joy if you just filled it to the brim. Right? You ever fill something so far like it's actually over the brim, and you're like, how is that not coming out of the glass right now? That's amazing. Like that's the kind of fill we're talking about. And that's the kind of, I know. Leo's like this. My guy, Charles Spurgeon, said this. When you are bidden to believe in him. Believe in him up to the brim. When you are told to love him up to the brim. When you're commanded to serve him up to the brim. Change the whole water. Don't fill it halfway and just say that's good enough. Fill it up to the brim. Jesus said, now dips them out and take it to the master of the ceremony. So the servants followed his instructions. When the master of ceremonies tasted the water that was now wine, not knowing where it had come from, though of course the servants knew, he called the bridegroom over. A host almost always serves the best wine first. He said, then when everyone has had a lot to drink, he brings out the less expensive wine, but you have kept the best until now. You've kept the best until now. Now, this action took faith on behalf of the servants because the servants worked for this guy, right? The master of ceremonies. This is who they worked for. And so, can you imagine how angry this master of ceremonies would be if they brought him water in this glass, because that's all they thought they had, right? To dip it, just bring it to the master of ceremonies. Okay, bro. it's just water. So, but they obeyed him, and they took it to him, and they gave it to him, and he drank it. Now, I don't know when it became wine. Did it become wine as soon as it didn't say he did anything to it. It just said the water became wine. Did it become wine in the jar? Did it become wine while they were carrying it? Did it become wine just before he took it? I don't know when it became wine, but it doesn't matter, does it? The servants were obedient in saying, okay, I'll deliver this glass of water, I guess. It's on your head, bro. Jesus insisted that the miracle be put to the test and right away. Take this right away. He didn't command that the water be made into wine first and then served to the guests, but to the master of the feast, to test it under proper authority and to do it right away. Prove it. I'll prove it to you, Jesus is saying. Here's the wine right away. Take it to the authority right away. The faithful servants who did their work to the full knew the greatness of the miracle. The master of the feast only knew it was good wine. He didn't know it was a miracle. This knowledge was a special blessing for the servants. The servants knew that it was a miracle. They're the ones that filled the jarred pistols. The jar, what am I trying to say? The stone pots. What pitchers. Thanks, Mindy. Pistols. They knew. They knew. And even though the guy that was in charge didn't know, they knew. Sometimes that's part of the work of the kingdom. Is as a servant, I'm just going to be obeyed. I don't know how this is going to work. I just know that it's going to work. This week I was helping. There's a school here. There's two schools here in town. I sit on the governance board for John Dewey Academy of Learning and NEW School of Innovation. They're charter schools in the Green Bay School District, meant for kids that think differently than like everyone else. And so JDAL in particular is a school that has project-based learning where, like, if a girl really likes fashion design, her project is to design a dress. And so she's going to learn math by making a dress. She's going to learn history by making a dress. She's going to learn sociology by making a dress, right? So around this making of a dress, she'll learn. And I love that. I wish I had that because I was a lousy student. And so I was there to take some video of some parents talking about JDAL. And this woman walked in. I really liked her because she was cute. I didn't like her because she was cute, but like when you're a video person, like you want them to be cute, right? Because it just makes it easier. And so she was cute and she seemed smart. And she sat down. She was a little bit off today. It was a horrible day. I said, okay. And I asked, well, tell me more about why it was horrible. Like half wanting to know, half wanting just to get this video done so I could go to the next one. And she said, well, I've taken a job not student teaching, but part-time teaching. And it's at a really rough school and I got a chair thrown at me today. I'm like, oh my gosh. Right. And of course, being Scott, I hugged her. And then that hug started this whole new thing, right? Where she was like, it's just I was a teacher and I quit being a teacher to raise my kids. And now my husband, 21 years, has divorced me. And like, I have to go back to work to be a teacher. And like, there's no real jobs right away. And I got to blah, blah, blah. And like, that turned into this 45-minute thing of her, like, just pouring out her pain. You know what I mean? And like, I'm glad I was there. Because what if there was just some other video guy there? Like, all right, well, I'll leave you to it, and good luck, right? I mean, like, Jeff, what would you do? You know what I mean? Like, I don't, you know? And so, but I felt like, I don't know, God needed me there, you know? And so, I mean, what do I know about it? Apart from divorce and abandonment, having to start over. You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, hey, listen, this is this and that is that. And we just kind of started talking through it. I said, you gotta stop. You're frantic right now. You're like I said, you know, like in Bambi, when man is in the forest or the woods and like everyone's hunkered down and hiding and there's that partridge or the pheasant or whatever. She's like, oh my gosh, he's here. We gotta go. Oh my gosh, we gotta go. Right? I said, right now, lady, like you're living in that place, but it's not a moment. You were talking about days and weeks right now for you. Where you're, oh my gosh, he's got to go. You have to be exhausted. And the energy that you're burning is not getting anything. And so you're tearing yourself up by trying to get away or trying to get back or and you're like Crisco on a slip and slide. Where you're just like, oh, I can't believe why can't he? Like there's just no traction in that. He might be a bleep hole, right? But like trying to prove that he's a bleep hole won't get you anywhere. There's no traction in that. That's not who you are. You're not how he treated you. You're so much more than that. I can clearly see you're so much more than that. And so we had this conversation for 45 minutes. Now, I don't know what happened after that. Like, that's not my responsibility. I don't know when the water got turned into wine. Was it in the pitcher? Not the pistol. Was it in the pitcher? Was it in the cup? Was it on his tongue? Was it just before he swallowed? I don't know. I don't know when this would have been a favor or blessing to this woman, or even if it was, but I know that I did what Jesus told me to do and to love on this woman and see this woman, even though I had 1,000 things I should have been doing. And I tell you that not so you think I'm awesome, but so that you know that God is awesome and that my job isn't any different than your job. I was there to do a job taking video. I wasn't there to do a job being a pastor. Why is my heart racing? Like, it's not just my job. It's your job. It's our job. If I believe what Jesus tells me about who he is and what I have, it's my job to make sure everyone knows that. Not by telling them they're going to go to hell if they don't stop sinning, but to tell them that they're loved. We can get to the sin later. But I need to love that lady and not worrying about when the miracle happened or how the miracle would happen, but just to play my role in that. So he says to him, the guy, he says, you've kept the good one until now. And there's principle behind these words, the principle that for the people of God, the best is always yet to come. Tomorrow is going to be better than today. Next year will be better than this year. Now, I might have to change some of my perspectives. Am I going to have a newer car next year? Probably not. Probably not. But I don't know in which ways that it's going to be better, but I know that God's promised me that it would be. That if I'm faithful to him, that if I'm worried about his work and not my work, if I'm worried about his will and not my will, if I'm worried about his love and not my love, it's going to be better next year. And what does that tell us about Jesus? When he moves in your life, you can count on the best thing for you. If you position yourself rightly through obedient submission to his agenda, he can flip the script and give you his best, even when you thought his best was a thing of the past. Even when you think it couldn't get any better. Jesus is the new wine, and some of his best work comes in the midst of our emptiness, comes in the midst of our blandness, comes in the midst of our empty pots. Fill these with water, and I'll do something with it. But fill it to the brim. Do all the work, not half the work. Do all the work. John 2:11. This miraculous sign at Cana in Galilee was the first time Jesus revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. The glory of Jesus is found in his compassion. And this was a miracle full of compassion. The wine was not an absolute necessity. No one would die drinking water. All at risk was the embarrassment, reputation, and perhaps bank account of the bridal couple. Yet Jesus and his Father counted that enough to do this first public miracle and sign. Like, he didn't raise someone from the dead as the first thing. He didn't give someone sight. He didn't feed 5,000. He did like a parlor trick, turning water into wine. But that was what those people needed to save themselves the embarrassment, right? Or the reputation. His disciples believed in him. Of course, they believed before, but now their belief was deepened and re-expressed. This is typical of the Christian life. God does great things in our lives, and we believe in him all over again. My wife asked me to go to the store with her and Ray. And to Stein's. I don't know, to get some peonies, or that's not peonies, peonies. Peonies? I was so elated that I hugged her. You might think, I don't even know what you're talking about, right? What are you even talking about? But as a person that derives my worth from how people treat me, and if you don't treat me the way that I expect to be treated, I'm automatically thinking that you don't love me, right? And so I'm going to confess to you, and apparently everyone on the internet, that for me, like, I just really like being with the people that I love. Like, I never want to not be with them. I want to do everything with them. Oh, you're going to the backyard? I'll go to the backyard. Oh, you're going to go to Stein's? I want to go to Stein's. Oh, you're going up north? I want to go up north. Right? Like, I would drop everything to be with the people that I love. And Like it's just been a really long, weird season where that just wasn't the thing. And I tell you that, again, not so that you're like, oh, Scott, and come give me a hug, although I'll take all the hugs. Like God is always working in our lives. And there's no chance that you should give up. There's no chance that you should give up. I'm talking about going to Stein's, and you probably think I'm crazy. But that's what a sign to me. We talk about signs. What a sign to me. No, we can go to Stein's. All of us can go to Stein's. That's actually what I said. And I ran up and I hugged her because I was excited to go to Stein's. Now, that's a miracle in my life. That might be every day, for you guys. What are you talking about? I'm sick of my wife. I'm sick of my husband. That might be you. I'm just telling you that there's things where you're hurting that God's working. And it might not seem obvious that he's working. You might not know when the water gets turned into wine. You might just think, I've got these empty pots. And maybe they're full to the brim, but they're still just a pot of water, man. I'm just telling you that he's working. And God works in my life still. And there are miracles that are giant. You don't have any idea how big this miracle is. I might as well be growing a third arm. We can all go to Stein's. Might as well be a third arm. It's that size miracle in my life. And so I'm just telling you that I don't know what your miracle expectation is. I don't know where your pain is. I don't know what you're waiting for or hungry for. But I'm telling you that God's got it for you if you could just be obedient and fill the pot to the brim. Not thinking that this will never work. Can you imagine these guys? What are we filling these things with water for? The well is 30 paces away. I got to go to a well for every fresh bucket to fill 6 30-gallon. What are you, nuts? And we look at our lives and say, what are you, nuts? This is never going to happen. And so we make 5 trips and fill it halfway and say, okay, do something with that. I'm just telling you that God is faithful to deliver it for you. He's faithful to deliver it for you. The master of the feast, he didn't believe. The bridegroom didn't believe. It doesn't say that the servants believed. It says here that the disciples believed in him. And so I feel like this is such an important point in their walk. And so he called them to follow him because he was a great speaker. But they didn't have any proof that he's the Messiah until he turns the water into wine. He's like, oh my gosh, I guess there's something here. And then what happened for them? Then they do go on to see like people being healed from blindness or deafness, right? They go on to see him resurrected from the dead. It starts with turning water into wine. Where does it start with you? What miracle are you going to identify as coming from him? What goodness in your life has already happened? Water turned into wine that you just thought was this parlor trick or something you didn't even know was happening. The disciples believed in him. So look for the miracles that are happening in your life and then start building on those miracles. There's a bunch more I was going to say. I don't think anything is better than that. He's got miracles for you and he wants to work in your life. We've got a handful of questions set up for discussion on your tables. This is the big part of having church at Remnant Church, is to have conversation at the end. This is where the real stuff happens, because what do I know? So please take the time. You can use these questions if you want, or you can come up with your own questions, but we'll get back together. We'll do announcements and we'll get out of here.